The Galactic Science Conference was the largest event of its kind in the universe. Every year, scientists from countless planets gathered to showcase their research, share new ideas, and prove who was the smartest. The Grand Hall was filled with strange creatures from every corner of the galaxy, some with glowing skin, others with multiple heads, and a few who floated instead of walking. Among them were a group of humans, small in number but determined to represent their planet, Earth. At the center of the hall stood a tall stage. On it was the famous alien professor, Zarek. His blue skin shimmered under the bright lights, and his 4 eyes scanned the audience with a smug expression. Zarek was known for his sharp mind and sharper tongue. He loved proving how weak other species were compared to his own, the Rylans. And today, he had chosen humans as his target. "Ladies and gentle beings," Zarek announced, his voice echoing across the hall, "I bring you undeniable proof that humans are one of the most fragile and unprepared species in the galaxy." A murmur spread through the crowd. The humans in attendance exchanged uneasy glances. One of them, Alex Carter, frowned and crossed his arms. Alex was an engineer and adventurer, always ready to defend his kind. He had a feeling this wouldn't end well. "Let me explain," Zarek continued. A large hologram appeared behind him, showing an image of a frozen wasteland. The landscape was covered in endless snow and ice, with violent winds whipping through the air. "This is Arctos, the ice planet. Temperatures here drop below -80 degrees Celsius, and storms can freeze a creature solid in seconds. No species can survive here without exceptional skill and preparation." Zarek paused dramatically, his 4 eyes narrowing. "Except, of course, for my kind," he added with a sly grin. "The Rylans have mastered the art of survival. Humans, on the other hand." He let the sentence hang, as if the conclusion was obvious. Alex's hands tightened into fists. He didn't like where this was going. "To prove my point," Zarek said, "I propose a simple challenge. A human must survive on Arctos for 10 minutes by building a shelter, an igloo, to be precise. If they succeed, I will admit that humans have some value after all. If they fail, well," he chuckled, "I'm sure they'll try their best not to freeze." The audience erupted into laughter. Many of the aliens found the idea ridiculous. How could a species as soft and warm-blooded as humans handle such a hostile environment? "This is nonsense," one of Alex's teammates muttered. But Alex had had enough. He stood up from his seat, his heart pounding with anger and determination. "I'll take your challenge," Alex said loudly, his voice cutting through the noise. The room fell silent. All eyes, alien and human, turned to him. Zarek's smug grin widened. "Ah, a brave volunteer," he said, "or perhaps a foolish one." "Neither," Alex shot back. "Just someone who believes in what humans can do." Zarek chuckled again, clearly amused. "Very well, human. But remember, this is no ordinary challenge. The conditions on Arctos are unforgiving. If you're not fast, you won't last." Alex ignored the warning. He had faced tough situations before, and he wasn't about to let this arrogant alien make humans look weak. "When do we start?" he asked. "Tomorrow," Zarek replied. "We will travel to Arctos, and the entire galaxy will watch your attempt. I do hope you have your will written." The crowd laughed again, but Alex stayed calm. Deep down, he felt a mixture of fear and excitement. He knew the odds were against him, but he also knew that humans had something special: the ability to adapt, to overcome challenges, and to prove doubters wrong. As the conference ended and Alex prepared for the challenge ahead, he thought about all the times humanity had beaten impossible odds. This was just another test, and if there was one thing Alex was sure of, it was this: humans never gave up. The stage was set, the ice planet awaited, and Alex was ready to show the galaxy what humans were made of. The transport ship roared as it descended through the dense atmosphere of Arctos, the ice planet. The windows were frosted over from the sheer cold outside, and every bump of turbulence reminded Alex Carter of how hostile this planet truly was. Beside him, his teammates, Dr. Helen Park and technician Raj Patel, sat in silence. The tension in the cabin was thick. They all knew the stakes. "Final approach," the pilot announced through the comms. The voice was calm, but Alex could feel the subtle hint of concern. Even the ship's advanced systems struggled to handle Arctos' extreme weather. Outside, winds howled like angry beasts, and snow whipped around in chaotic flurries. "Looks welcoming," Alex muttered, trying to lighten the mood. Helen shot him a look, half amused and half worried. "You know this isn't a joke, Alex," she said. "The temperature out there is -80. Your body could shut down in minutes if the Igloo isn't ready." "I know," Alex replied, adjusting his thermal suit. "But I'm not going to let that smug alien win. Humans have survived worse." The ship landed with a heavy thud, its landing gear sinking slightly into the snow. The ramp lowered, and an icy gust of wind rushed inside, making everyone shiver despite their heated suits. Alex stepped forward, his boots crunching on the frozen ground. This was it. The ice planet was as unforgiving as Zarek had described, maybe even worse. The ground was covered in a thick layer of snow and ice, broken only by jagged rocks jutting out like frozen teeth. The sky was a swirling mix of gray and white, with no hint of sunlight breaking through the storm clouds. The wind was relentless, screaming across the landscape and carrying fine particles of ice that stung any exposed skin. "All right, Alex," Raj said, pulling out a portable scanner. "This spot is as good as it gets. Snow density here is stable enough for cutting blocks. Just be careful not to dig too deep. The ice layers below could be unstable." Alex nodded, taking in the information. He had practiced building igloos in simulated environments before, but this was the real deal. There was no room for mistakes. He grabbed his toolkit, which included a specialized snow saw, a small heater, and a few emergency supplies. A hologram appeared in front of him, projected by a nearby drone. It was Zarek, his smug grin as infuriating as ever. "Welcome to Arctos, human," Zarek said, his voice crackling through the transmission. "I do hope you enjoy your stay, though I suspect it will be a short one." Alex didn't respond. He simply walked past the hologram, focused on the task at hand. The challenge had officially begun, and the clock was ticking. He started by marking the circular area in the snow. The wind made it difficult to keep the line straight, but Alex pressed on. Using the snow saw, he began cutting blocks of compacted snow, each one about the size of a small suitcase. It was slow, grueling work. The wind pushed against him with every movement, and the cold made his fingers ache, even through the insulated gloves. Helen and Raj monitored him from a distance, their faces etched with worry. They could provide advice and support, but they weren't allowed to help. This was Alex's challenge alone. "He's doing well," Raj said, though his voice lacked confidence. "The blocks are solid." "He's behind schedule," Helen replied. She checked her tablet, which displayed the countdown. 8 minutes left. Alex finished the base layer of the igloo and began stacking the blocks in a spiral. His hands moved quickly, shaping each block to fit snugly against the others. The wind fought him every step of the way, blowing snow into his eyes and freezing any exposed surfaces. But Alex refused to stop. Halfway through, disaster struck. A gust of wind knocked over one of the blocks, and the entire structure began to collapse. Alex's heart sank as he watched his hard work crumble. "Come on, Alex," Helen whispered, watching helplessly. Alex clenched his fists and took a deep breath. He didn't have time to be frustrated. He needed to act fast. Grabbing the fallen blocks, he started again, this time reinforcing the base with extra snow to make it sturdier. He worked faster, his movements fueled by sheer determination. With 2 minutes left, the igloo was almost complete. Alex climbed onto the structure to place the final blocks for the roof. The wind howled louder, as if trying to stop him. His hands were shaking, and every second felt like an eternity. Finally, he placed the last block and crawled inside. It was small and cramped, but it worked. The wind outside was muffled, and the temperature inside began to rise slightly, thanks to the insulated walls. The countdown reached 0, and Alex let out a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. He had done it. The igloo was complete, and he was alive. The hologram of Zarek reappeared, his expression a mix of surprise and frustration. "Well, human," he said reluctantly, "it seems I underestimated you." Alex smiled faintly, his breath visible in the cold air. "Never underestimate humans," he replied. "We always find a way." As the transmission ended, Alex leaned back against the icy walls of the igloo. The challenge wasn't over yet, but he had proven one thing. Humans weren't as fragile as Derek thought. The storm on Arctos grew fiercer as Alex crouched inside his barely completed igloo. The biting cold seeped through every crack, and time was running out. The challenge wasn't over yet. He had built the igloo, but he needed to make it strong enough to survive the relentless storm. Outside, the wind howled like a living beast, ready to tear apart anything in its way. Alex pulled out his toolkit, his hands trembling from the cold. His gloves, designed for extreme temperatures, were already starting to stiffen. He checked the small heater he carried. It was running low on power, but he needed it to keep his tools functional. "I can't mess this up," Alex muttered to himself. The Galactic Science Conference audience was watching his every move through live feeds from drones. He imagined Zarek sitting in his warm observation station, waiting for him to fail. That thought alone fueled Alex's determination. He began reinforcing the walls of the igloo by packing snow into the cracks. It was a delicate process. Too much force could weaken the structure, but too little meant the icy winds could penetrate. His fingers worked quickly, shaping the snow to fit tightly. Each breath he took fogged up his visor, but he couldn't afford to stop. "You're doing great, Alex," came Helen's voice over the comm. She and Raj were monitoring from the safety of the transport ship. "Just stay focused. You've got 7 minutes left." "Easy for you to say," Alex grunted, brushing snow off his visor. His movements were slower than he wanted. The freezing air seemed to sap his energy with every passing second. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the icy landscape. Alex froze. The sound wasn't from his igloo. He peeked out through a small opening and saw a jagged fissure forming in the ice nearby. The ground was shifting under the pressure of the storm. "Raj, what's going on?" Alex asked, his voice laced with urgency. "The ice sheet is unstable," Raj replied. "The storm's pressure is causing fractures. You need to finish fast before the ground gives way." "Great," Alex muttered, his heart pounding. He worked faster, sealing the last few cracks and reinforcing the roof with snow blocks. He had practiced this in simulations, but nothing could prepare him for the real thing. The wind's force made every task harder, and the cold gnawed at his strength. 5 minutes left. As Alex worked, one of the drones hovering nearby buzzed closer. It was projecting a hologram of Zarek, his 4 eyes gleaming with amusement. "Still struggling, human," Zarek taunted. "I'll admit you've lasted longer than I expected. But survival isn't just about effort. It's about knowing when you're beaten." Alex ignored him, focusing on his work. He placed a final layer of snow on the roof and began smoothing it down. The igloo was holding, but the real test would come when the full force of the storm hit. 4 minutes left. The wind suddenly shifted direction, slamming into the igloo from the side. Alex felt the entire structure shudder. He pressed his hands against the walls, hoping they would hold. Snow began to pile up around the entrance, threatening to block him in. "Alex, you need to clear the entrance," Helen said urgently. "If you get trapped, the carbon dioxide levels inside could rise too quickly." "Got it," Alex replied. He grabbed a small shovel and started digging out the snow. Every scoop felt heavier than the last, and his arms burned with exhaustion. But he kept going, driven by the thought of proving Zarek wrong. 3 minutes left. The storm's intensity increased, and the temperature dropped even further. Ice began forming on Alex's visor, making it harder to see. He wiped it clean with a gloved hand, his breath coming in short, sharp gasps. The Igloo groaned under the pressure of the wind, but it held firm. 2 minutes left. Almost there, Alex said to himself. He checked the interior one last time, making sure there were no weak points. The Igloo was cramped, but it provided enough insulation to keep him alive. He activated a small heat pack, which began to warm the air inside. For the first time since the challenge began, Alex felt a glimmer of hope. 1 minute left. Outside, the storm reached its peak. The howling wind and biting snow made it impossible to see more than a few feet. Alex huddled inside the Igloo, his hands pressed against the walls. He could feel the vibrations from the storm, but the structure held strong. "Time's up," Helen announced. Her voice was filled with relief and excitement. Alex let out a deep breath, his body sagging with exhaustion. He had done it. The Igloo had survived the storm, and so had he. He crawled out, his body aching, but his spirit triumphant. The hologram of Zarek reappeared, his smug expression replaced by reluctant respect. "Impressive," Zarek admitted. "It seems I underestimated your species." Alex grinned, his breath fogging the icy air. "Never underestimate humans," he said. "We're full of surprises." The galaxy had watched, and Alex had proven one thing. Humans were stronger than anyone had believed. Alex leaned against the icy wall of his Igloo, catching his breath. The storm outside had finally started to weaken, but the eerie silence that followed didn't feel reassuring. Something about Arctos didn't sit right with him. The challenge was supposed to be over, yet his instincts told him that trouble was lurking. "Alex, are you all right?" Helen's voice crackled through his comm device. She and Raj were still monitoring from the ship, their anxiety evident. "I'm fine," Alex replied, though his tone wasn't convincing. The Igloo held up. "I'll give Zarek that much. His test wasn't easy." "You should head back to the ship," Raj suggested. "The sensors are picking up some odd readings nearby. Could be the storm, but I don't like it." Alex frowned. Odd readings, on a planet as unforgiving as this one. Odd usually meant dangerous, but curiosity got the better of him. "What kind of readings?" he asked, standing up and brushing snow off his suit. "Subsurface movement," Raj replied. "It's faint, but there's something under the ice. It's moving toward your location." "Toward me?" Alex repeated, his heart sinking. "Yes," Raj confirmed. "It could just be shifting ice, but I'd feel better if you came back." Alex glanced at the horizon. The transport ship was visible in the distance, a faint glimmer of safety. But something nagged at him. What if this was part of the test? Zarek had never said the challenge ended with the Igloo. "I'll check it out," Alex said. "Are you insane?" Helen snapped. "You're already at your limit, Alex. Don't push it." "I can't leave without knowing what's out there," Alex replied. "If it's part of the test, running away isn't an option." With a sigh, he grabbed his portable scanner and headed out. The snow crunched under his boots as he moved away from the Igloo. The wind was calmer now, but the cold was as brutal as ever. He followed the scanner's readings, each step taking him closer to the unknown. The scanner beeped louder as Alex approached a jagged ice formation. The readings were stronger here, the movement below more distinct. He knelt and placed his hand on the ground. The ice felt solid, but there was a faint vibration. Something was definitely down there. "Raj, I'm at the source," Alex said. "The ice is vibrating. It's not natural." Before Raj could reply, a loud crack shattered the silence. Alex jumped back as the ice beneath him split open. A geyser of snow and ice shot into the air, and Alex barely managed to stay on his feet. From the fissure emerged a metallic object, sleek and alien in design. It hovered above the ground, glowing faintly. "What is that?" Helen's voice was filled with shock. Alex stared at the object, his mind racing. It looked like a probe, but its design was unlike anything he had seen before. The glowing lines along its surface pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat. Then it turned toward him. "It's scanning me," Alex realized, raising his hands instinctively. The probe emitted a low hum, and Alex's scanner began to malfunction. Sparks flew, and the device went dead in his hand. Before he could react, the probe fired a beam of light at the igloo. The structure collapsed instantly, reduced to a pile of snow. "Alex, get out of there," Raj shouted. Alex didn't need to be told twice. He sprinted toward the transport ship, his heart pounding. The probe didn't follow but continued scanning the area. As Alex ran, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was no accident. The probe had been buried for a reason, and his presence had triggered it. By the time he reached the ship, Alex was out of breath and freezing. Helen and Raj helped him inside, closing the hatch behind him. The warmth of the cabin was a relief, but Alex's mind was still racing. "What was that thing?" Helen asked, her voice trembling. "I don't know," Alex replied, shaking his head. "But it's not just ice and snow on this planet. There's something more here, something dangerous." Raj studied the readings on his console. "Whatever it is, it's ancient. The probe's energy signature is unlike anything in the galactic database. We need to report this." "Not yet," Alex said firmly. "If Zarek knows, he'll twist this to his advantage. We need to figure out what we're dealing with first." Helen looked at Alex, worry etched on her face. "And how do you plan to do that?" Alex stared out the window at the icy landscape. "We'll start by finding out why that probe was buried in the first place. Whatever it's protecting, it's something worth uncovering." The team exchanged uneasy glances. They knew the risks, but Alex's determination was contagious. The ice planet held secrets, and they were about to uncover them, for better or worse. The icy wind howled across the barren plains of Arctos as Alex stood outside the remains of his igloo. The strange probe that had destroyed it still hovered in the distance, its glowing surface flickering like it was alive. Alex knew the structure had served its purpose, but losing it felt like losing a piece of himself. He had built it with his hands, and it had stood firm against the storm. Now it was just a pile of snow. "What's the plan, Alex?" Helen's voice came through the comm, steady but anxious. "The probe's still there," Alex replied. He pointed at the strange device, though no one could see his gesture. "It's not leaving, and I'm not sure it's friendly. But something tells me it's here for a reason. If I'm right, this isn't over." Raj chimed in, his voice firm. "Alex, that probe is dangerous. It destroyed your igloo without hesitation. You should come back to the ship." "Not yet," Alex said. "I need to understand why it attacked. There has to be a reason." With a deep breath, Alex began gathering the remains of his igloo. He scooped the snow into his hands, carefully shaping it into blocks. His actions were slower this time, more deliberate. The temperature had dropped even further, and his body was nearing its limit. But Alex had a plan. If the probe reacted to the igloo, then rebuilding it might give him answers. "Alex, you're not serious," Helen said, her tone rising. "You're going to rebuild the igloo. Why?" "Because it's the only clue we have," Alex replied. "The probe targeted the structure, not me. Maybe it's protecting something, or maybe it sees the igloo as a threat. Either way, I need to find out." Raj sighed heavily. "You're pushing your luck. We can't help you if things go south." "I know," Alex said, his voice steady. "But this is why we're here. To prove we can survive, to solve the mysteries others are too afraid to face." He continued working, his hands moving quickly despite the biting cold. He used the snow to reshape the walls, building them higher and stronger than before. Each block was carefully placed, forming a new structure that mirrored the first. The storm had left enough loose snow for him to work with, but every movement drained his energy further. As the igloo took shape, the probe's behavior changed. Its glow intensified, and the humming sound grew louder. It hovered closer, its movements slow and deliberate. Alex froze, his heart pounding. The device was watching him. "It's reacting," Alex whispered. "The igloo, it's triggering something." "Get out of there," Helen shouted. "That thing's not safe." But Alex stayed where he was, his instincts telling him to wait. He placed the final block on the roof, completing the igloo. The moment he stepped back, the probe's hum reached a crescendo. A beam of light shot out, scanning the structure from top to bottom. Alex shielded his eyes, watching as the light passed over the snow. Suddenly, the ground beneath the igloo began to shake. The snow collapsed inward, revealing the hidden hatch made of smooth black metal. Alex stared in disbelief. The probe had destroyed the first igloo to hide this, but rebuilding it had triggered the mechanism. "Raj, are you seeing this?" Alex asked, his voice shaky. "We see it," Raj replied. "That's incredible. Whatever's down there, it's ancient. The probe must be some kind of guardian. Or a warning," Helen added. "Alex, you've done enough. Come back to the ship. We can analyze this from a safe distance." Alex shook his head. "If I leave now, we might lose the chance to explore it. This hatch could close again. I have to go down." He approached the hatch, his steps cautious. The probe remained still, its glow dimming slightly. It no longer felt threatening, but Alex knew better than to let his guard down. He knelt beside the hatch and ran his gloved hand over the surface. It was smooth and cold, with strange symbols etched into the metal. "It's some kind of writing," Alex said. "Nothing I've seen before." "Be careful," Raj warned. "One wrong move could trigger a defense mechanism." Alex nodded and pressed his hand against the center of the hatch. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a low hiss, the hatch began to open. Warm air rushed out, carrying a faint, metallic scent. Alex peered inside and saw a dimly lit corridor leading into the depths of the ice. "This is it," Alex said, his voice filled with awe. "The igloo was just the beginning. Whatever's down here, it's the real test." As he prepared to descend, Helen's voice broke through the calm. "Alex, we're with you. But don't forget, you're not alone. We'll guide you every step of the way." Alex smiled. "Thanks, Helen. Let's see what secrets Arctos is hiding." With one final glance at the probe, Alex stepped into the unknown, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The air inside the hidden corridor was warmer than Alex expected, but it carried a strange metallic tang. Dim lights lined the walls, flickering faintly as though they hadn't been powered for centuries. Each step echoed ominously, making the silence around him feel even heavier. "Alex, are you getting any readings?" Raj's voice broke through the calm. Alex glanced at his portable scanner, which had come back online after the probe's interference. The screen displayed strange energy spikes ahead, but the data was incomplete. "There's something big down here," Alex replied, keeping his voice steady. "The readings are unstable, but it's powerful. Whatever this place is, it's still active." Helen's voice came next, tense with concern. "Alex, don't take unnecessary risks. You've already proven humanity's resilience. There's no need to go deeper." But Alex couldn't turn back now. His curiosity burned brighter than his fear. This was more than a test of survival. It was a discovery that could change everything. "I have to see this through," Alex said. "Stay with me." The corridor led to a massive chamber, its walls covered in glowing symbols that pulsed gently, as though alive. At the center of the room stood a towering structure, shaped like an obelisk. It hummed with energy, its surface etched with the same alien markings. The air around it shimmered, distorting the view slightly, like heat waves rising from the desert. Alex approached cautiously, his scanner beeping wildly. The energy readings were off the charts. He could feel the hum of the obelisk in his bones, a low vibration that made his skin crawl. "It's some kind of power source," Alex whispered. "Incredible. This might be what the probe was protecting." "Can you identify its purpose?" Raj asked, his voice filled with excitement and worry. Alex shook his head. "Not yet. It could be a generator, a weapon, or something else entirely. But it's ancient, older than anything I've ever seen." He circled the obelisk, studying the markings. His fingers itched to touch it, but he knew better. Alien technology was unpredictable, and one wrong move could be fatal. Instead, he focused on the symbols, hoping to find a clue. Suddenly, the room shook. The symbols on the walls glowed brighter, and the hum of the obelisk grew louder. Alex stumbled, grabbing onto a nearby console to steady himself. "What's happening?" Helen demanded. "The obelisk. It's reacting to something," Alex said. "I think my presence triggered it." The floor beneath the obelisk began to open, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside was a spherical device, floating gently in midair. It was smooth and black, with faint lines of blue light running across its surface. Alex's scanner went haywire, unable to process the readings. "This is it," Alex muttered, awestruck. "This is what the obelisk was hiding." "Alex, be careful," Raj warned. "If that thing's a weapon, you could be in serious danger." Alex nodded, his heart pounding. He reached out slowly, his gloved hand hovering just inches from the sphere. The moment his fingers brushed the surface, a surge of energy coursed through him. The room was bathed in blinding light, and Alex felt his mind flood with images and sensations he couldn't comprehend. He saw visions of planets, stars, and civilizations, some thriving, others destroyed. He felt the weight of an ancient intelligence, vast and incomprehensible, reaching out to him. The sphere wasn't just a machine. It was a repository of knowledge, a bridge between worlds. When the light faded, Alex collapsed to his knees, gasping for air. His body felt heavy, but his mind was racing. The sphere's energy had left him shaken but unharmed. "Alex, what happened?" Helen's voice was frantic. It's not a weapon," Alex said, struggling to find the words. "It's a database, a record of the galaxy's history. I think it's been waiting for someone to find it." Raj's voice was filled with awe. A database, that could be the most important discovery in human history. Before Alex could respond, the probe from the surface descended into the chamber. Its glow was softer now, almost welcoming. It hovered near the sphere, as if acknowledging Alex's success. Then, it emitted a series of tones that echoed through the chamber. The symbols on the walls shifted, forming a new pattern. It's giving us coordinates," Alex realized. Helen gasped. "Coordinates to where?" Alex looked at the glowing symbols, his heart swelling with determination. "I don't know, but it's inviting us to find out." As the probe ascended back to the surface, the obelisk powered down, leaving the chamber in silence. Alex picked himself up, cradling the sphere carefully. He knew the path ahead would be dangerous, but he also knew it was worth it. Humanity had been challenged, and they had answered. Now they were being given a chance to explore the stars in a way they never had before. "Let's go," Alex said, his voice steady. "This is just the beginning." The Earth delegation's ship hovered silently over the ice plains of Arctos, its sleek silver body gleaming under the pale light of twin moons. Inside the control room, Alex, Helen, and Raj stood in front of a large holo display. The sphere Alex had retrieved from the hidden chamber now rested in a containment pod, pulsing gently with light. Its presence seemed to fill the room with an air of both triumph and mystery. Professor Larnack, the alien who had doubted humanity from the start, appeared on the screen. His smooth blue skin and elongated head gave him an air of wisdom, though his sharp tone often overshadowed it. "So," the professor began, his voice dripping with skepticism. "You've returned. I see you managed to survive, though barely, I assume." Alex stepped forward, his face calm but firm. "Not only did we survive, Professor, but we uncovered something extraordinary. Something your people left buried for centuries." Larnak's eyes narrowed. "Explain." Alex gestured to the sphere. "This artifact is more than a test of survival. It's a database filled with knowledge about the galaxy. Your probe wasn't protecting the planet. It was guarding this, and we earned its trust by proving our resilience." The professor's expression flickered, a mix of surprise and intrigue. "You accessed the sphere?" "I did," Alex said. "It showed me visions of ancient civilizations, long-lost technologies, and even the origins of your people. This isn't just about survival. It's about connection, about sharing what we've learned." Larnak leaned back in his chair, silent for a moment. When he spoke again, his tone was more measured. "Impressive. But understanding the sphere's purpose doesn't change the fact that humans are impulsive, reckless, and driven by emotion. You risked your life, and the lives of your crew, for something you barely understood." Helen stepped in, her voice steady but passionate. "That's what makes us human, Professor. We take risks because we believe in something greater. We're not perfect, but our flaws are what push us to grow, to adapt, to survive." Raj nodded. "When you doubted us, you saw only our weaknesses, but it's those same weaknesses that allowed Alex to succeed. We don't give up, even when the odds are against us." Larnak's gaze shifted between the three humans. The weight of their words seemed to sink in. Finally, he sighed, a long, deep sound that echoed through the comms. "Perhaps I was too quick to judge," the professor admitted. "Your species is unconventional, but there is strength in your unpredictability. You've accomplished what many others could not. For that, I commend you." Alex allowed himself a small smile. "Thank you, Professor. But this is just the beginning. The sphere gave us coordinates to other sites, places where we can learn more about the galaxy and our place in it. We're ready to take the next step. Are you?" Larnak asked, his tone challenging once more. "The galaxy is vast and unforgiving. Many who seek knowledge find only peril. How will you prepare for what lies ahead?" Alex met the professor's gaze, his resolve unshaken. "By doing what we've always done. Facing the unknown with courage, learning from our mistakes, and working together. That's how humanity survives." The professor's lips curled into what might have been a smile. A fair answer. "Very well, humans. You have proven your worth, at least for now. But remember, the galaxy does not owe you kindness. Every step forward will bring new challenges, new tests. We wouldn't have it any other way," Helen said, a confident grin on her face. The screen went dark as Larnak ended the transmission. For a moment, the room was silent, the weight of their achievements settling over them. Then Raj let out a laugh, breaking the tension. "We did it," he said, clapping Alex on the back. "Not just surviving, but proving humanity's worth. That's something to be proud of." Alex nodded, his smile growing. "This isn't just about us. It's about everyone back home. We've shown that humanity has a place in the stars. Now, it's up to us to keep exploring." Helen placed a hand on the containment pod, her expression thoughtful. "The sphere, it's more than just a tool. It's a reminder that we're part of something bigger. The galaxy isn't just a place to survive, it's a place to thrive." As the ship prepared to leave Arctos, Alex gazed out at the icy landscape one last time. The planet had tested them in ways they hadn't expected, but it had also given them a gift, not just the sphere, but the proof that humanity was ready to take its first real steps into the unknown. "Set course for the coordinates," Alex said, his voice steady. "Let's see what's waiting for us out there." With that, the ship rose into the sky, leaving behind the icy plains of Arctos and heading toward the stars. Humanity's journey had only just begun.